Hello, hello, welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and my guest this week is Sarah Sapora, my new friend. If you listen to the end of this conversation, you'll understand what I mean. Sarah is a force. This one, she lets loose so much wisdom, so much truth. It's hilarious. We laugh a lot. But basically, her greatest desire is for women of every shape and size to feel empowered to begin the journey of their own healing. She's trying to cultivate positive change in women of all sizes. She thinks that self-improvement looks different for everybody and every body. It's an inside game. She shares her path. She shares her journey, her process. She's very open about the fact that she used to be somebody that couldn't walk down the street without taking a pause for breath. Her knees would give out on her due to her weight. And then she's kind of been on a journey over the last several years. She's now a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she has a lot of strong and very well-grounded opinions about the hypocrisy of the wellness industry, in particular the stigma, the shapes, the sizes, the vibe that cultivates, and the subconscious negative impact that it has on all of us. So we dive into that. We talk about personal growth. We talk about the distinction between your weight and your worth, how that relates to your wellness. We talk about healing, trauma, all of it. Like, this conversation is so good. You're about to walk into a fiery discussion of hilarity and awesome, basically. So put your jacket on, grab your boots, grab also perhaps a notebook and a pen, because she's got some one-liners coming up. Anyway, you're gonna love Sarah. I adore her. And without further ado, here is Sarah Sapora. This episode is brought to you by Cured Nutrition. Cured is the leader in CBD supplementation, with an entire line of products designed to take your everyday life to its ultimate potential. Their daily staples are formulated with an in-house clinical herbalist, which has taken the traditional CBD regimen to an entirely new level of optimization. If you're anything like me, you like waking up feeling good and living well. You've probably toyed around with the idea of finding healthy alternatives to jumpstart your morning. Personally, it's why I start my day with Cured Rise, which is their focus supplement. It's a powerhouse blend of functional mushrooms like lion's mane and cordyceps, broad spectrum CBD, and powerful adaptogens. It gives me clean, clear, and sustained energy without any of the caffeine jitters or crash that I get with coffee. After I get going, Aura is next. It's another blend of functional mushrooms, CBD, and adaptogens, but it's got a twist. We all know how important it is to sustain our immunity nowadays, and this covers all of my bases. The vitamin D, prebiotics, crucial antioxidants are delivered straight to the gut, which is the foundation of our emotional and physical health. Am I right? Second brain. It's where the majority of our serotonin production and immune function begin, or it keeps everything in check, performing at its best. So I have one less thing to worry about, and I obviously cannot forget Zen. I use it every night. It is certainly why it has become Cure's #1 selling relaxation and sleep product. You know the long nights spent tossing and turning? Yeah, not with this stuff. It has ingredients like reishi mushroom, ashwagandha, magnesium, passion flower, broad spectrum CBD. So thankfully, restlessness is something of the past. Cured Nutrition products are your answer for a daily dose of health. Visit curednutrition.com. That's CURED nutrition.com. Be sure to use the coupon code LOVEBOMBS, and at the checkout you will save 10% off your order. Dimes?
It's your first time.
There we go. All right.
I just gave you consent.
Thank you for your consent. I appreciate it. And okay, I'm recording on that. We are good to go. Sarah Sapora, is that how you say your name?
Yep.
Sarah Sapora, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you.
Me too. Thank you so much. I was a little geeked when you reached out to me because I already followed you and knew who you were. And I was like, yes, bring it.
Yeah, and then you geeked me back because I was like, like you know me? That's I'm knowable. That's so fun, and it made
Sure.
it just felt like a good fit. Then I didn't have to convince you that I'm sane and professional and worth chatting to.
Well, are all of us sane? I mean, are
Right.
any of us sane? I would say the appropriate degree of necessary sanity.
Yes. So I'll start where I always start, which is to ask you, like, who are you? For somebody that's listening that's never heard of Sarah Sapora, like, what's your deal?
Yeah. I am a self love mentor and I am focused on body inclusive personal growth. I specifically connect a lot with plus size women or women who have been on a body journey of some kind to help them to understand what self love is, to move away from the bubble bath definition of self love to what I believe self love can really be and how they can use that to create a greater life. I don't talk about fat self love, but I talk about self love from the perspective and the journey and the voice of a woman who understands the role that her body in all its never ending changing forms and changing for the rest of its life as someone who has been heavier and been smaller and wants to weigh less than I do now, right? Like I understand how the body and awareness of weight can impact the self-love, self-awareness journey for a human. And I like to talk about that with incredible vulnerability and authenticity and some humor and some irreverence, because I believe that the more we talk about it, the more we share these sort of universal truths, and the less this group of people feels shame about their path. And therefore, the more inspired we are to make change, because I feel very strongly that the personal growth and personal development industry does a really bad job of showing what a healing path can look like when you are in a marginalized body. We tend to see the same, I was miserable, now I'm awesome journey from like the same person, relatively slender, usually white, oftentimes female with the perfect hair or dude with the perfect hiking pictures. And the fact of the matter is that there are tons of people out there who cannot relate to that version of heroine and hero within them. And I just really want to show what it looks like in a body like mine, in a body that may not feel mainstream, even though it's pretty mainstream, what that journey of self-love can look like.
I love that. I'm stoked to talk to you. I already adore you. So for someone listening, when you say a body like mine, just if they don't know what you look like, how do you describe that? So for context.
I look like a combination of Sophia Loren plus Cindy Crawford at the night, like in the 90s, like in the height of her House of Style days, No, I'm a very average 5'4", 42-year-old, size 22 plus size woman. And I'm sure we'll get into this. I have dabbled and understood a lot of all these different industries and ideas associated with plus sizeness, body positivity, fat advocacy, blah, 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 all that stuff. At the end of the day, I'm a woman who believes that all of us deserve to find body liberation and health and happiness as it relates to us. I personally do not intend to stay at the size that I'm at right now, simply because at my age and my body, I do not feel as mobile and as healthy as I want to be. So I have been incredibly fit, leg pressing over 700 pounds and doing 6 flights of stairs in 60 seconds, holding, 50-pound weights. And I have also been heavier than I am now, to the point where my knees would buckle out from underneath me when I tried to walk the dog. So, I would say that probably for the rest of my life, I will always be varying degrees of plus sizeness, because I just think that is probably who I'm meant to be. But I am delightfully dorky, and I have an incredibly off-color and wildly inappropriate sense of humor. And I have embraced growing out my gray hair, because I'm going to run with the fact that it's awesome. And I laugh a lot, and sometimes when I laugh, I snort. So now the people who are listening have a much better picture of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I should provide some context for why you're sitting in front of me. And so
Sure.
I guess the backstory is I was reading an article and I came across some figures about obesity in America, and they were comparing 1970 to now. And basically, the obesity has climbed significantly. And so I started thinking about, wow, there's a lot of bigger humans living in America than there used to be. And I've also read some stuff about obesity being correlated with heart disease and health problems and mental health problems, et cetera. And I started contemplating the intersection or the juxtaposition between self-love, loving who you are, loving your body, and this other source of information, which states that when your body is of a certain size or a certain scale, or however you even say it, there's health ramifications. And I was confused as to how to navigate that. And I put an Instagram story out, kind of as I do haphazardly and spontaneously. And I got a lot of feedback. And I basically was saying, I don't know how to have this conversation, but I feel like it's an important conversation to have. Like, to not shame people about their size while also communicating the potential ramifications of that size. Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, a lot of people chimed in, had opinions, said I need to find somebody who is a plus size human who knows about all this stuff. And I was like, well, that's a very specific niche. Can you give me a name? Your name came up. I reached out. We had an email exchange in which I pitched the idea, recognizing that it's essentially what I would describe an eggshell sidewalk for me, at least. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. There's contentious issues. It's sensitive. It requires vulnerability. And I'm pretty clueless in this space. And you wrote back very generously and very helpfully. And you had this one sentence, though, which said, everything is a potential landmine in this conversation.
Yeah.
So here we are to discuss the landmines together. And I'm really grateful that you're here. So anything to add to what I just described there? Anything jump out?
Yeah. Listen, this is a complex conversation for a lot of different reasons. One of them, and I would say the biggest one, being that on one side of the dialogue, you have a very emotionally heavy narrative that the majority of people who are heavy kind of experience, right? So, I mean, we're going to speak in generalizations, and I would encourage people who are listening to this conversation to understand that when you have these conversations, you speak in generalizations, but those generalizations are also the columns and the pillars around which nuance must exist, right? And so there's a lot of nuance here. So over 70% of women in this country are considered plus size. That is a size 16 and above. I am not here to advocate on whether that is good or not, right? I'm here to uncover nuance with you. So the large majority of women in this country are considered plus size. And there are reasons for that, right? I am not the best, most factually educated person to talk about the history of the BMI and the flawed history of the BMI and why it is that BMI, body mass index, is a poor indicator of health, and how the medical industry and the insurance industry stepped in and made the BMI a thing when it wasn't meant to be a thing. Like, there's an entire shit ton of research and incredibly educated speakers out there who can tell you about what the actual truth of the obesity epidemic is, and how the quote unquote idea of an epidemic really was born when the insurance industry and the government decided to switch what makes somebody, the definition of what makes an obese person and what makes not an obese person, by around 20 pounds, and how that sort of changed the numbers of people in this country who are therefore obese. On top of that, we know Americans are getting fatter, like they just are, right? So there are a lot of complex dynamics here. And if you guys could see me, you would see I'm wiggling my hands around like Stevie Nicks with scarves and stuff. That being said, at the heart of this, what is essential to remember, and I believe why you're talking to me, is that all humans are human and all humans have humanity. And regardless of whether a person exists in a marginalized body or not, regardless of whether someone is healthy or not, these are not indicators of their value and worth as human beings. And in this country, we equate weight with worth. And we say you are more valuable when you are slender. You are more deserving of happiness when you eat clean, quote unquote. And the topic of self-love and liberation, meaning we all deserve liberation in our bodies, whatever that looks like for us at every given phase in our life, because that will change, is completely necessary. And the more we see ourselves as fallible humans, the more people who live in mainstream bodies recognize that health is changeable and bodies are changeable. And, you know, we are all so much more alike than we are different. The more we start to realize that everybody has their own truth. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And you touched upon the wellness industry, of which I know you are somewhat critical. Is that a fair, or somewhat, you have opinions about what it is and what it could be, let's say.
Absolutely. Are you asking me what those are?
I'm basically just throwing things into the wind, and we'll see whatever you desire to blow along your path. But yeah.
Okay. So,
just to say, you have an article that says I'm fat and I'm a wellness influencer.
Yeah.
And you, I know you run an event that's very body inclusive.
Absolutely.
And you touched already on the, what did you say? Like, I used to be shitty and now my life is awesome and I look like all the other advertisements. So maybe we could start with like
an after trap of wellness.
Right. So maybe we can start with just what is wellness and how is it portrayed? What could it be?
Sure.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. So this mainstream idea of wellness, what we tend to think of when we think of wellness, is a super fit, slender young person doing yoga, saying namaste, doing their keto, sharing it all on Instagram with the perfect leggings and all this kind of stuff. Like, there's a very idealized picture of what wellness looks like. And that woman does not have body rolls when she leans over. And if she does, they're the cute pinchable kinds. And she certainly doesn't fart in yoga class. And she doesn't have body hair somewhere. And she's definitely not over the age of 40. But if she is, she looks great for her age, right? Like it's this very commercialized. You're laughing at me because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You're a funny fucker. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, the truth is, every person who is 25, as long as they're staying alive, is at one point in time gonna get saggy. And all of us are going to grow and evolve. And some of us have chronic illness, and some of us may have health issues. Like variety is the only guarantee in bodies and in people in life. We come in every size. Some of us naturally, some of us not. We come in every shape. We come in every degree of able-bodiedness, some naturally, some not. We are all coming to the table as we are in this beautiful spice shelf of life. And all of us deserve to uncover what a greater, happier, and healthier version of us looks like for us. So, for example, somebody living with a chronic disease is never going to accomplish quote unquote health and wellness the way somebody without that chronic disease would. Somebody who, has some mental stuff that they're dealing with, bipolar, depression, whatever, a greater, more healthful version of them may never look like what somebody else's does, right? And so my aim is just for the wellness industry and the personal growth industry to show that health and wellness and happiness is not one size, one color, one age fits all. And wherever you are in the journey of your life, in the journey of your weight, in the journey of your healing, in the journey of whatever, wherever you are, you should be empowered to get the tools to pursue what greater looks like for you. And what greater looks like for you is going to be different than what greater looks like for somebody else. That's what I feel very passionate about. I'm not here to discourage people not to get healthier. Absolutely not. Of course not. What I'm saying is that greater version of Sarah, me, I'm 42. I have no depth perception in my left eye, and I'm never going to be able to play softball and fly an airplane. And, when I ski, I suck at it, right? It's going to be different for me than it is for you. And it's not designed to be that same, but the only narrative we really see is one. We see one narrative, and that is my problem with the wellness industry. The wellness industry must do a better job of being more inclusive. It must do a better job of welcoming people and meeting people where they are at. It must do a better job of empowering people and not shaming them into change. Because that feeling that you're broken, that feeling that you're fucked up, that feeling that you're the only one will never lead you towards a loving path of healing. And if you are somebody who struggles with their health or struggles with their weight and doesn't want to be where they're at, that shitty feeling of shame and aloneness is only going to perpetuate the things that got you where you are right now. It is never going to serve as a springboard for you to grow and transform into something more empowered. Does that make sense? That's my beef with the wellness industry. More bodies, more colors, more ages, more shapes, more people being more empowered to use tools to find what happier and healthier means for them.
Yes. I'm going to attempt to summarize what I heard, and also suggest something that I'm curious for your opinion on. So yeah. I was just contemplating how if I go to any of these large yoga chains, any of these very famous, I don't know what you call them, tights, leotards, workout gear, that I don't know if I've ever seen a plus size mannequin wearing plus size clothing in a store In the same way that when I see the photographs of the people working out or the local heroes that they promote and support, I don't know that I've ever seen somebody missing a leg or that's overweight, right? And so what I'm hearing from you, I think, is that kind of presentation perpetuates this ideal that is unattainable for a lot of people. And as a consequence of that, the ramifications are that they feel shame, ostracized, not good enough, unworthy, etc. And in doing so, the wellness industry has this kind of shadow side that's not quite recognized, which is hypocritical. And that by portraying it that way, they're actually promoting unwellness. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
That was like the least you've ever heard me say. Back to you.
Yeah.
May I respond to that?
Please. Yeah.
A couple of things. First off, you probably would not notice a lot of those things just because of who you are, right? You probably would not be as tuned into them.
I've never even thought about it until just now.
Of course, exactly. It's not your path. It's not your journey. You'd never think about it. And I'm going to say this specifically this way, unless you've like had a fat sister or something, right? Like, unless there's a reason for you to, it's not going to be part of your thought process. So for example, when you walked into Target last month, you probably didn't notice that the mannequins were body inclusive. It didn't mean shit to you and you didn't see it. But for that person who walked into Target and who saw the person in the mannequin in the wheelchair, they noticed it. Or for somebody that walked into Target or wherever and was able to find accessible clothing with snaps, they noticed it, right? So, the people who it is designed for notice it, but also the people who not designed for eventually will subconsciously start to see it and believe that it's normal. Yes. Right? Like if you've never noticed it, then you've never considered it. So it might really shock the shit out of you if a size 18 walked into your fitness class. But if you saw it more normally, you'd be like, oh, fuck, look, it's just another person, right? You wouldn't think anything different of it if you saw it more regularly. If it was portrayed on social media and on billboards as it is starting to, which is awesome, right? And I know some of these people, I know these models, I know these figureheads, right? The more we see it, the more permission it gives more people to recognize that it's okay and it's good. Now, you have one side of the story where people are saying, if we show marginalized bodies in general, then we're glorifying obesity, or we're glorifying marginalized bodies, and we're telling people it's okay to do that. All right, whatever. Fuck off, lovingly. Excuse me. But I'm telling you, as a person who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and never saw anybody who looked like her. Had I seen more people who looked like me, I cannot tell you the sense of identification and okayness it would have given me, and that would have been empowering. And I hear that from women time and time and time and time again. So yes, if the wellness industry truly did care about all people becoming more well, they would do that. At the end of the day, I'm making a fart face right now because it's all about profits, and it's all about who's, the images that people want to perpetuate. But the reality is that, what is it, like over 40%? I don't have the stats off the top of my head, so just forgive me. But the majority of people in this country of age groups are over 35, right? Female boomers, male boomers, women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, we know have more money to spend, sorry about that, than other groups. So if you're not catering and you're not actively working to court and speak to older bodies or plus size, but like, it's such bad business. Like, not only is it like a shitty thing to do and a hypocritical thing to do from a wellness brand in general, but it's also fucking stupid. Like, who do you think really has money to spend? Do you think it's the 24-year-old fucking with her filters and Facetune on Instagram? Or do you think it's the divorced 49-year-old woman who works a full-time job and is looking to feel better about herself? Like, who's got the money? It's ridiculous on so many different levels. And, you know, many brands and many businesses are starting to wake up to, you know, embracing things, but it's nowhere near where we as a human, not just me, we as a human, I think can grow into.
Yeah, the financial aspect is an interesting piece.
It's so stupid, right? Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Years ago, I'm going to tell you this story, and I'm not going to like use names because I don't want anybody to sue me. But years ago, I worked for this brand that rhymed with Schrippenschrals, and it was a woman's entertainment brand of male strippers, male dancers. Schrippenschrals, got that? And I was their marketing gal, and I was in my mid-20s then, and I remember we were buying t-shirts and like gear for the store. That was like, so you went in, you saw your hot naked dudes, and then you went out and hopefully spent a lot of money in the store. And I remember begging management to put some plus size t-shirts in the store. I'm like, do you see who is in the audience every night? And they're like, and they never did. And I'm like, who do you think is spending money? Who is spending money? Like, it's so interesting. And, you know, you might connect with people who work in fat advocacy who might say that fat phobia is the root cause of why we don't embrace more bodies. And, you know, I'm not going to say they're wrong, right? I'm not the best person to speak on that. But from a business perspective, it's so silly on why more brands, especially those in personal growth and wellness, don't realize that the market is so much larger. And they do realize it, they just don't care. That's the shitty part. Like, with all those MBAs in the room over the last 20, 30, 40, however many years, like, they know it. They just don't want to embrace it because it's not the look. It's not the brand. It's not super sexy. Know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to consider as well. That it doesn't fit the vibe that they're trying to create, right? Because in our culture, young, fit, sexy equals healthy, right? Mm-hmm. And what you're suggesting, it sounds like, is that healthiness is a whole lot, pardon the pun, bigger than that image, right? It includes different bodies. It includes, you've talked previously in some of your work, the emotional component, the spiritual component,
right? So
psychological
we view wellness as just wellness of the body, but I came across an idea once of having 8 pillars of wellness, right? Physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational. If we go beyond this idea that just wellness is physical, wellness is just what's your cardio level, right? Like,
or your BMI.
Wellness is so much more holistic than that. Wellness is holistic and it's individual, right? So, I mean, it's not just about fat and thin. I mean, like, look, knock on whatever wood, we all live to 85, 90, 110, right? What is healthy going to look like for you at 92? What is it going to look like for me? We have to allow health and wellness to be relative to where every individual person is in their life and not hold it to this myopic standard.
Yeah, maybe you could share a little bit of your journey. So you mentioned that you used to be much larger with significant chronic pain. I read on your website that you couldn't walk down the street in New York without stopping, for example. And then you also touched on this idea that it was dealing with repressed anger that was a
Yeah,
consequence of that. Or
sure.
do you mind
So,
sharing? Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
You're good. No, I was just like, I think your personal journey perhaps is a good example of the juxtaposition between wellness, mental health, emotional health, trauma, etc.
Yeah. So people are heavy for a variety of reasons, right? They just are. People are heavy. Some people are heavy and they're just born thicker. They're just born larger, thicker, heavier bone squatter. Some people gain weight because of a medical issue. Some people lifestyle, whatever. For me, my journey with bodily awareness began very early, as happens for many folks, with my mom, who was never happy in her body, truthfully. And so I observed passively and not passively very early on an awareness and a preoccupation. That's not a real word. Whatever. Preoccupied with weight. And my mom very early had me at Weight Watchers when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And when I was 7 or 8, like I might have been like a fleshy, chubby child, as we know children to be, right? But at a very early age, I was aware of the idea of food monitoring and restriction and the idea of weight loss. And because of the narrative that we had with food at our house, which was very regulated, okay, food was very regulated. As I got into my teens, the idea of food became freedom and control for me. Eating out of the house the way I did was a way for me to exercise my own personal freedom and exercise freedom from what my mom wanted me to be. And all of this stuff as a teenager, like you have no freaking idea why you do it, but you just do it, right? It's soothing. It's what you do, right? And as I got older, I used food as a way to self-soothe. It developed a very deeply emotional relationship to food. I mean, look, I've been various degrees of plus size my entire life. I don't want to like make it like some big, huge, eloquent story. I've struggled with my weight on and off for my entire life. I did all the different fat camps when I was in high school. And when I left New York City and moved to Las Vegas, I was the only plus size person in the room and blah, blah, blah. But I never felt as if my weight defined me, and I never let it define me. In doing that, I always felt like I had to try harder, be better, be stronger, be more assertive, be more aggressive, be more put together. I had to scream louder to get people to notice me. I always had this deep, deep, massive desire to feel seen and be accepted by people, and to know that I was worthy and to know that I was good enough. And, I was codependent on everything and everyone other than me, right? But at the same point in time, I was this super articulate, super brave young woman who was forging a different path. So I left New York when I was in my early 20s. That's where I'm from. And I moved to Las Vegas and I got into entertainment marketing and public relations. And I worked with some really cool brands and I did some really interesting stuff. And I don't know, along the way in my life, I have searched for love in the most meaningful way that I was capable of at the time. And I ended up in some crappy relationships with a lot of dudes who didn't show up for me, didn't respect me. I ended up in a relationship with somebody that was sort of emotionally and sexually coercive and abusive. I spent a long time, most of my life, attaching myself to other people for my own self-esteem. because I didn't have a sense of who I was as a person. I didn't have a sense of who I was. I didn't have self-worth. I didn't have relational sense of who I was if I was not relating to other people, right? That's the definition of codependency. All of the things that I thought of myself were who I was in relation to other people. And along the way, I can see now that my body mirrored my pain, whether that pain was subconscious or not. I can see now that the times in my life when I was most happy were also the times where I soothed the most with food. And by the way, with other shit too, with sex, with casual relationships, with shopping, with acquiring stuff. I used other stuff. I coped a lot. And I coped with food, I coped with sex, and I coped with clothes and shit, right? Like I worked in plus size fashion. That's what I was taught to do, like yay, e-commerce, right? So my journey has been an awareness and awakening to the relationship that I have had between my body and like my spirituality, if that makes sense. It's been an awareness of all the ways in which I subconsciously self-sabotaged when I was really just trying to like soothe myself. And it's been me walking into my 40s and creating myself based on my own values and my own sense of self for like the first time, like creating Sarah. And in that process, there's a lot of soul archaeology, that's what I refer to it, that has to do with uncovering my relationship to my own shit, right? We all have shit. And for me, that shit also includes my weight. It includes a lot of stuff. It includes my dad. It includes my mom. It includes, all this stuff. But for me, it also includes my weight and how that has been a defense, how it has been a hindrance, how it has been fuel for certain things, and understanding how to work with that. Like there have been times in my life where I have been really heavy to the point where, I could walk through Target and I would have to lean in a shopping cart because my knees could buckle out from underneath me. I remember in my early mid-30s, I was singing in a choir in LA, semi-professional choir, and we were just walking, singing and walking. And my knees buckled out from under me. My left knee would like go numb, and then my foot would go numb, and then I would just like fall over, right? And I was wearing this peach chiffon dress and cowboy boots, and I looked really cute. And the next thing I know, I'm falling, and in the middle of everybody walking, I'm screaming, Hunger Games, keep going, trying to deflect with humor because I'm feeling all of these things: shame, confusion. I'm standing out. I'm embarrassed of myself. I don't want anybody to see me. I want to shrink myself. Like all of that impacts your self-love and your self-awareness. So, like any human who journeys in spiritual growth, I am endeavoring to be a more awake, more mindful, more present, more authentic version of me. And for me, that just happens to include my history with my body and will probably always include that, right? Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, whether or not you're practicing. Like it's the same thing. Like once you're a person who uses food or drugs or whatever to self-soothe, that's always going to be your shit. Whether or not you're actively practicing is a different story, right? So it's just my shit. My shit is that I got a body journey, and there are going to be times in my life where I'm fitter. There may be times in life where I'm not. The goal for me is to find a way to continue to make peace with where I am, so I'm always accepting and loving of myself, and also continue to push myself to not fall for my own shit, push myself to be radically honest and radically vulnerable and say, okay, girl, get your shit together. Be greater. Be greater. Find fucking greater and be it. Get out of your own way.
Mm. You said on your website, you have this great line, which is do the work to heal what hurts.
Yeah.
Are there any other sort of lessons that you've learned or key insights to, I'm thinking of somebody listening right now that is nodding along to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're somebody if you're a woman in particular, because I tend to think that women have more emotional relationships to weight than men, although they certainly can, right? The first thing I would ask you is, when you're going on a diet, what is it that you're really looking for? I'm not telling you not to want to lose weight, but I am asking you, what do you think that fucking diet's going to do for you? Because there is not a single thing that diet will do for you other than change your body size. So whatever hurts you and whatever is like bothering you, like whatever is really at the crux of your pain at a certain weight, will literally still be there with you when you're 100 pounds thinner. You'll just have a different relation to that shit. Your shit is your shit, no matter what size you're going to be at. Whether you notice it, whether it's more present, it's not, but you cannot outrun your own shit. So I'm not telling you not to want to make changes within your body. We all deserve to feel more mobile and more strong and more free and more liberated. What I am asking you to do is get really fucking honest with yourself about what it is that is really hurting you, and be willing to get really uncomfortable, because that external solution stuff is just external solution. Yes, it may make your mobility easier. And Lord bless, that's a wonderful reason, and do it, get it, girl, right? Yes. But that external solution will not be what makes you realize that you're codependent. It will not be what gives you the courage to walk away from a partner who represents your core wound. Like, you gotta be willing to look at your ugly shit. And I say that with love, because everybody has icky, messy stuff. And we think self-love is sanitized, and we think it's clean and bubble bathy and fluffy. And the definition that I have of self-love, and this is my definition, is that self-love is any thought, anything, any action, anything you do, anything that connects you to that greater, more authentic version of you. And this big lie is that self-love is bubble bath and pretty and easy, and it's not. I mean, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it is, but it's also the gritty, ugly, hot loneliness of sticking and hanging out in your own pain until you know that you are okay, right? That's self-love. Self-love is not the fluffy stuff. That's the shit they market to you and they sell to you. Self-love is this beautiful awareness and reckoning that, if you get to the point of having within yourself, for whatever reason, can feel like life is shattering. It can feel like standing in the middle of a twister, but it can be the basis for the most real, beautiful stuff you will experience. I was talking to my boyfriend maybe a month ago or so. We lovingly refer to him as man candy. And by the way,
when you say we, who do you mean?
Oh, me on social media. We were talking.
Okay. We were having a conversation. Does he call himself man candy?
No, I call him man
candy.
Okay,
gotcha.
Because he hates social media and desires not to be on the interweb, and I can't blame him, right? Yeah. So man candy and I were having this conversation, and you should know that I am 42, and this is the first time I've ever lived with a partner. I am 42. I have never lived with a boyfriend before. I have never had a healthful, functioning relationship with a dude who sticks around to have the gritty conversations. And that has nothing to do with my weight and everything to do with the fact that I have been doing the soul work to learn how to really have intimacy and vulnerability in life, and also the boundaries to walk away from the people and the dudes who won't show up for you, right? Like, this is the icky, good, awesome, fun stuff. You know, every week, Man Candy and I sit around and have speaking Snapple. We literally hold a Snapple, and like two dorky middle-aged people sit around and proactively discuss our boundaries and what went well for the week and what was challenging, because neither of us have ever had healthful relationships with boundaries. But isn't that fucking amazing? Isn't that what growth is about, right? That is not something you can teach somebody in a diet, right? That's spiritual. But that journey is going to look different for everybody. So we were having this conversation, and like I was extolling the values of spiritual growth and how we do things for I'm putting on, like, for those of you who can't see, like I have like funny gestures, like as I'm making fun of myself, right? We do personal growth for the sake of the journey and not for the end result, right? We do it for the doing and not for the goal, right? All this bullshit we know is true, but it's funny to make fun of. And he looks at me in his very sort of deadpan, I'm not at all woo-woo 50-year-old age, and goes like, well, then what's the fucking point, Sarah? If you're not going to go for your goals, why should we do any of this shit? Like, what's the fucking point? And I said, because I truly think if you're lucky, you live awake. And some people don't want to live awake, and that's totally okay. That's a very valid life experience. But if you get that little voice in your head that goes, there's more, this is not enough, then the greatest gift you're going to have in life is the awakening into yourself. And that doesn't mean everything is always happy. It's not. Sometimes it's far fucking worse, because you actually really feel pain. And when you're awake and you're mindful, you're feeling pain without drugs, without alcohol, without sex, without any of those yummy, delicious coping mechanisms that we all love, right? But it's awesome. And that process is not what we see in fat bodies. When you see stories of fat people going through self-improvement, it's always a before and after photo, and the after, the pinnacle of their happiness, is the most slender version of themselves. Now, again, I'm not anti anybody wanting to lose weight. And I also don't care if you want to stay where you are right now. What I care about is, are you awakening to your own fucking truth? And if you are not, on purpose, then I call bullshit. If you're not because you're just not able to see it, cool, no problem. Like I'm sure many of us know what it's like to sleep through quite a bit of our life. Like, I did it until I was 37 years old, okay? No fucking problem. We see what we can see when we're able to see it. That's soul archaeology, right? This idea of soul archaeology. We work on what the top layer that we're able to work on when we're able to work on it, right? But what I care about is, if you're not fucking happy and you fucking know it, why the fuck aren't you doing something? And I never asked if I could say fuck before, so I'm so sorry, but I'm using that on purpose, because then you are getting in the way of your own shit, young lady or young person, whoever. And I know that if you are heavy and you're not doing your own healing, like you've got some shame, or you've got whatever, or you've got fear that it's never going to be different. Like, if you are feeling stuck in your life, whether that's because of your weight or because of your relationship patterns, it doesn't matter. If you are feeling stuck, you have to even allow yourself to believe that something different is possible, That's when I get really excited. That's when I want to be like, wake up to your own shit. I never told you I was going to be succinct. I'm sorry about that.
As a former partner of mine once told me, never apologize for being interesting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I get really geeked. I really do. I want more people. And I have a soft heart for whoever are the people that feel like they're underdogs, right? And like, don't we all feel like we're underdogs in some way, right? But I want more people to wake up to the fact that, yeah, it's hard, but nobody ever said that life wasn't like, who promised that life was not supposed to be hard, right? Like, how did we wake up to this idea that we're supposed to live life without pain or without being hard, right? But if you're willing to look at the hard stuff, the flip coin of that is something really gorgeous. Can be. If you're willing to like come to that cross in the roads, right? Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, right? Like two roads, two roads. And you've come to this feeling of pain, this glaring of pain. And you have two choices. Do I numb out? Do I turn it off? Or do I let myself follow it and see where it might take me? Both are valid paths. I'm at the stage in my life where I want to see where that takes me. And I want to empower other people to see where that takes them. Because I think that so many of us are so much more greater and vibrant and shining and powerful and capable than we have decided we are not.
Yeah. It sounds like that fork in the road is feel it or don't feel it. Right.
Yeah.
And the don't feel it portion is addiction, numbness, distraction, procrastination, sarcasm, etc.
Yeah. I mean, look, we always say it's simple but not easy. You know,
Yeah.
we want to buy solutions. There are no solutions other than to hang out in your own shit. And trust me, like you can get help and you should get help, right? But at the end of the day, the only solution is, do you want to feel it? And do you want to get comfortable with being uncomfortable? Or do you want to hide from that? And it's okay if you want to hide, but that's not the life path that I am personally looking to live, right? I want to live what I call life love. I want to live that journey where hope and action come together with accountability, where awareness meets action meets accountability. And that propels me to recognize that I'm just on, this is the trip. I'm either on it or not. I'm either on the path of my awareness or I am intentionally choosing not to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
This was not the conversation you thought you were going to have, was it?
I believe that expectations are projected disappointments. So I'm happy to just ride the wave. But I would add to that, maybe to kind of tie a bow on some of this, is that as you described, sitting in your own shit. I mean, that's how you get your man candy masterpiece, right? It's like, it's the only way. Like I don't see, and I've looked personally for years for like the 6 snazzy tips to avoid feeling deeply and grow and heal, right? And strengthen. And more and more I come back to simply sitting in stillness and allowing myself to feel things or to face things or to pay somebody money to help me see and fail and face those things. It's like, I don't know a way around it.
Yeah. So I agree with you 120%. Okay. And I'm going to give you an example right now that ties the bow back to the whole idea of the conversation, which is how does weight and self-love, like how does all of this do together?
Yeah.
I have this picture of me from like winter of 2017. And I never say this, but I looked hot as fuck. I was like super tan and super blonde. And I was wearing this red dress and I was in a great pose. And on the other side of the camera was a dude who was like the sexiest, hottest, like dude that I could ever imagine. And I was getting laid and I was excited and life was awesome. And for me, I was heavy, but I was super fit, and I was alive and electric, and it felt like I was living intoxicated and the world didn't understand how electric it felt. And when he held my hand and walked, I felt like the hottest piece of ass in the world. I mean, it was this greatest feeling. And I also look back and I can tell you that I have literally never been more codependent in my entire life than I was in that moment. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, here's what I was codependent with. I was codependent with the guy who's amazing, and we've been healing together as friends and whatever independently, who literally represented my core wound, who I had to learn how to walk away from. Okay. I was codependent on him for my self-value. I was also completely codependent on my own weight loss journey and performing that on social media so that the wellness industry would take me fucking seriously. I was so caught up in proving to other people that I was awesome and that you want to have me in your article and that I deserve to have this seat at the table. And it was all external. And none of it was the internal healing that I really needed. Now, in 2016, I was at this point in my life, 2015, 2016, where I knew I was dying. Like I could feel it. Physically, my body was just falling apart. But emotionally, I was done. I was so certain that life was passing me by and I was scared. And all I wanted was a loving relationship. And all I was getting was dudes who wanted to touch my boobs and were like, yeah, you're a big girl. You got a great big ass. I love it. Yeah. Right. And I was making the same mistakes again and again and again. And I wanted vacation. I wanted to go to the supermarket. I wanted to, watch The Good Wife. Like I wanted all these things that were real that I saw everybody else feeling and I wasn't. And I didn't know how to get there. But I knew two things. I knew, A, if I didn't live long enough, none of it was going to fucking happen. And B, I have to, if you want to stop the bleeding, then only you can prevent forest fires, Sarah T., right? So I stopped having casual sex. Those were the biggest pain points that I had then. My lack of intimacy, I knew nothing about intimacy then. But my lack of intimacy and the fact that my body was literally screaming in pain. Now, anything can become a coping mechanism if we use it to distract ourselves and we let that be the focus as opposed to the healing. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why I say I don't care how much weight you lose or how fit you're getting. If you're an unhappy person, that's not going to be the healing for you. And I know because I've been on that journey. And now here I am, and I'm heavier than I was in that beautiful shining moment of red photo glory where, I go, God. And I'm trying to find a way to return to my health, return to my self-care in a way that's not codependent on what you think personally or on what people on social media think, what anybody else thinks but me. How do I approach my weight loss in a way that is based on my values and my needs and not done in a performative way for other people's approval and feedback? So the bow in all of this is that I thought that things would quote unquote fix me. I thought that they would change my life, and they did. They absolutely changed my life. But the first few layers were only the first few layers. And because I was ready in my life to say, okay, what do I really need to listen to now? Like, what's really going on? what's really self-love for me right now, the definition of what self-love is for you, Jeremy, will change all the time. Every chapter of your life, the definition of self-love will change for you. And the greatest thing that you can do is sit and listen to it and act accordingly. So in 2016, 2017, the greatest definition of self-love I had for me at that time was save your fucking life and get in shape. Make sure you don't pass out and have a heart attack. Make sure you don't follow down the path of your parents and their heart disease. And then in 2018, 2019, the greatest definition of self-love for me was really looking my core wounds of worthiness in the eye. And now I am more mentally aligned than I have ever been. And now my greatest understanding of self-love is actually taking charge of my shit for real and not being scared of getting my credit up. Go get checked for pre-diabetes. Go work on your weight. Go start financially planning. Like all these icky things that I know will make me feel the way I want to feel in my life, which is capable, direct, aware. That's self-love. So self-love will change for you if you are willing to listen.
That was so well said.
Thank you.
I have so much time for you. You're fantastic.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I mean it. It's been a really good, interesting conversation from my perspective. Where can people find you on the internet? How can they get into your world? How can they support you?
That's a great question. You can find me online at my website, which is sarahsapora.com, SarahSapora.com. I also share a lot on Instagram. And I also have a private, completely free Facebook group that I say is free from the creepy dudes on Instagram who want to see your butt. Not that that's you, but like when you're a woman on social media, it's an entirely different ballgame. So I have a community there as well, too. I'm also working to get a book out into this world. Because,
yeah, you are.
Yeah, trying to do that. So come find me and come hang out with me if you are ready to be real with yourself, as real as you're capable of being, and you're ready to listen. And, do some bad 90s karaoke and make some bad jokes. And
yeah, it sounds like listen, but also to like answer the call or to acknowledge the sounds, or not just listen, but like
hope without action means nothing.
Yeah.
And I think so many, right? Buy my 6 secrets, buy my this, buy my that. Anybody can sell you hope.
Yeah.
It's for sale. Action is not.
And accountability.
Self-accountability.
Yeah.
Is not.
Do you have any questions for me? Did we nail it?
Yeah,
is there anything you haven't touched on that you want to really get out?
No, I'm a little bit concerned that, I'm sure this makes for great podcast. I'm a little bit concerned that I didn't necessarily stay true to the form that you want, because it was a lot of me sort of going off on these really passionate tangents. And if that didn't work for you,
I assure you that you going off on random passionate tangents is precisely the form that I desire.
Okay, good. Listen, I got to tell you, here's what I love. And this is really honest. On the surface level, you and I could not be more different, right? But we are both looking and in pursuit of a truth that is fundamentally similar. Hence the reason I've always followed you, right? Your work has spoken to me as a person, as Sarah, as me. And I really love when people who don't look like they should belong, or I love when people from different perspectives or different backgrounds or whatever get together and realize just how freaking similar they are. And whether me sharing my addictions with food and my journey with weight is parallel to your journey with whatever addictions and shit you have. Like, if we can just air that stuff, it is so much more similar. And that's what's cool. What's cool is when you get two people, or when you get someone like you who was so vulnerably awesome and said, I want to have this conversation. I know that I'm not the best person to have it, but I want to have it. Like, let's do it. Had no fear about things that might feel a little icky or uncomfortable. And you're like, let's just dive in. And that is what I love. That is what I love.
I appreciate that. And just to clarify, like, definitely there was fear. For sure. From my perspective, oh, of course.
Why? Do I seem intrinsically
No, not fear of you as an individual. But I guess there's always fear when I'm diving into a topic that is not my expertise, a topic that I virtually know nothing about, and a topic that is potentially controversial. And I'm very, very cognizant and cautious, perhaps to my own detriment, that in 2021, straight white dudes in particular I feel like I have a lot of eyes on me.
You do,
and that
you're 100% correct.
And people are looking for reasons to ruin me, and so that is in the back of my mind. And so I'm always trying to navigate individually as like, I'm walking this path, and I feel really good about that. I feel really good about this post that I'm going to put out into the world. I feel really good about this conversation I just had. And I believe that it stands up to scrutiny, and I showed up in the best way that I could. And I'm trying to be genuine, and I'm trying to do good, and I'm trying to spread compassion. And if and when I do have a few missteps, if I say something that was out of place or out of touch or rude, then like, that's a really beautiful thing that I get to navigate and learn and also use as content along this journey that I'm trying to share with the world, right? And I think we need more of that. And so I'm trying to lean into that uncomfortable position of kind of using my own life as fodder for mistakes, epiphanies, etc.
Great. I think that's I think that's brave, and that's what you should do. And not like, oh, that's brave. No, that you be a fucking man. Sure. We're fucking doing it, right? Now, here's the two things that I would have to say to that. Okay. I see that fear. And by the way, I echoed that back to you in email right away. And I said, you don't be scared to talk to me, because we're not going to talk about any of the statistics and any of the science stuff. We're going to have a conversation about hard. And I got to tell you, I mean, it can be, this is an intimidating conversation to have for anybody, even me. And I've been a part of this dialogue for 10 years. Okay. So if and when you do speak to somebody who is far more, whatever, not administratively, you know the word I'm talking for, far more authoritative and able to speak on statistics and studies and histories and actual things, in that case, listen. When a person who's an expert in any field that is not intrinsically yours, mine, all of ours, speaks to you, keep an open mind, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of prejudice and bias in medicine and in studies and in society and in statistics about fat people. That's 100% true, right?
I don't know. I was just told to be skeptical about statistics by somebody I respect, Sarah Sapora.
I did that too. What I'm trying to do is I'm contradicting myself?
No, you said there's a lot of misinformation. Be cautious when you talk to an expert about statistics. And you said that's 100% true.
Well, okay, yes. What I'm trying to say is that, like when we get into the specifics of the history of the BMI, how did the BMI come to be the be-all and end-all measure of health, right? You, just like most of us, have no idea where that came from. But totally. The truth is, for example, the BMI was never intended to be what it was, and it was specifically only based on male men from like Denmark and Finland 200 years ago. Well, Like, there's so much more. The bigger picture is always so much more. And how can we awaken to that? And I think one of the greatest things is when we're not educated, how can we get like our ego out of the way and just shush and listen to people? But you have every right to be intimidated and scared of the climate. And in my own way, I am scared of the climate too on social media. All of us who work and live on social media at any point in time live with some level of awareness that we could be quote unquote canceled for any reason at any time, whether it's somebody finding out what your actual political beliefs are, or somebody not liking what your partner does, or the tweet you shared 15 years ago, or the Halloween costume you wore once, or blah, blah, blah. It's a constant awareness of land minage. And so therefore, when anybody steps up to the conversation with vulnerability, we've got to give that credit and recognize it and give each other some grace and cut ourselves some slack. Yeah. So I do hope that you have the conversation that you initially were hoping to have. I hope you have it, because it's an important one. And I think it'll be pretty eye-opening for you, as for a lot of people. But as always, I encourage people to think critically for themselves. That's it. And most of us don't want to do that. So
yeah. Well, conversations like this definitely help. So you are contributing to that expansion, indirectly or not.
Well, I love conversations.
That's me too. Like, I feel like a podcast, I'm like, yeah, I want to talk to you about this really interesting thing that I don't really know about. And like, I'm just going to ask questions. And like, if I have questions, I presume that some of the people listening also have those same questions.
Yeah. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is that, like, you know, when I was putting this book together, right, and working to find a potential literary agent for me, I had spoken to some agents, and it was clear that they wanted me to like turn this book more into like a body book. And I'm like, cool, but that's not this journey. This is not a body journey. This is an individual journey of love and awakening and awareness that happens to include my body. Right? So I said, like, it's not a book about fat self-love. It's a book about self-love. And it happens to come from my perspective. But that's what makes it unique, because my dream, like my literal dream, is that somebody who didn't know and was hurting in some way, or just like really unhappy and tired of like putting on a tank top when they had to go in the pool with their kid, or like was just tired of telling their husband to turn the lights off because they didn't want them to see their stomach, or like whatever, walks into Barnes and Noble, if we still have bookstores in whatever year, and they see all these perfect, beautiful faces that they don't feel like they look like, and then they see mine and they're like, who's that? I look like her, or my sister looks like her. I just want more people to have the opportunity to identify with teaching and inspiration and journey that is relatable to them. That's it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And if you need a blurb or a comment to put on your book, or like, I'm happy to add one that says how awesome you are and that everybody should buy it.
I hope that we can be in community with each other, because as you can tell, I'm not good at the surface level shit. Like, there's nothing subtle about me. And I like to think it's part of my charm, or not, whatever. But when I make the decision to say, hey, I want to be in community with this person, like I mean that. And
yeah, let's be friends. Are you asking me to be your friend?
Yeah, maybe.
I'll be your friend. I'll be the shit out of your friend. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Yeah, let's be pals. Sure.
That's cool. Oh my God, this should totally be on the podcast.
Yeah, why? I mean, I'm still recording.
You should totally not get rid of this completely real and authentic.
All right. Yeah, all right. It's staying in. It's fine. It's a good place to end on.
It is. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you for giving me some space. I appreciate that.
Pleasure. I appreciate you coming on and just saying yes and just literally spitting fire for the last hour in the most heartfelt and wise and authentic way. Like, it was really good.
Should we blow it up? I feel like we should.
All right, Sarah, thanks again. I'll be in touch. I'll send you an email because I need some details off you, and then I'll keep you posted when it's up, and yeah, we can just go from there.
Thanks, friend.
Yeah, no worries, friend.
Okay, goodbye. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I appreciate it.
I mean, are you not her biggest fan by now? That was just outrageously good. As mentioned, she is on Instagram. She has a website. I've included links to all that stuff in the show notes. She also has that event coming up in Florida at Club Med. I think there's a couple spots left for that. So I've included a link to that as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me stumble through challenging conversations about subjects that I really don't know too much about. I appreciate you sort of holding my metaphorical hand as we embark on this journey of life together, trying to learn, trying to make fewer mistakes, trying to make better mistakes, just trying to figure out how to do this thing called life. I'm glad you're here. If you want, you can find more of me on Instagram at Long Distance Love Bombs. I also send out a weekly email newsletter where I share my favorite things, songs, shows, books, articles, etc. I usually tell a story. It's fun. You can find that on my website, longdistancelovebombs.com. And that's it. Thanks so much for being here, and best of luck digesting and embodying all of that wisdom that just got thrown into your ear bones by Sarah. Take care, keep smiling, and I will talk to you soon.